great with it. Let's do it.
Cool, man. All right. Well, in that case, John, who is John Kepley? Who is this man?
I mentioned to you that I'm 49 now, and that has, I don't know if it's changed, but it's gotten, in my opinion, more real to me about what that looks like. So I'm Christian, husband, dad, son, entrepreneur, truth seeker, bull in a china shop, and lover of the process is what I'll say to that. And so, there's lots of intricacies and intertwined pieces there. But, I went through some hard times, in the last 10 years or so, and that really helped bring clarity and made me seek out what I wanted to be to the world.
The entrepreneur part of that. Why entrepreneurship? Where'd that come from for you?
So I grew up in an entrepreneur family. My dad and grandfather owned the farm. My mom, so I'm a farm kid. My mom owned a small flower shop, small business owner. I had an uncle that owned a stockyard. I had another grandfather that owned a gas station. So a lot of people in my life owned whatever they were doing. And so that made a huge impression. Now, the word entrepreneur never came up, right? That I learned that way off further in life. But when I tried corporate America and that didn't work, and I didn't know why, right? And I felt like a failure, to be honest about and frank about that. I'm trying to always be honest, right? So to be frank, I felt myself to be a failure, and it wasn't that I was failing. It was I wasn't in the right room, and I don't have fear around change. I don't have fear around risk. And, I just needed to own my own ship. And it took time for me to take ownership of that. But today I can't do anything else, right? I tell people, it's like, I've been fired from every job I've ever had. So I had to start a company so I'd have a job, right? And so it's one of those things where I believe that it's either in you or not in you. And it's okay if it's not, right? We've gotten to the place in this world where I hear people talk about, well, where the word founder and entrepreneur is built up into this deal. It's awful, right? Let me just go ahead and tell you. I'll tell you, don't do it, right? And there's a point where there is no rational reason. The founder of NVIDIA, who's currently worth $34 billion, right? Jensen Huang is the guy's name, right? Recently said publicly within the last month that if he knew how hard it was going to be, he would have never done it.
I saw that clip and it certainly resonated. And I don't think people understand that concept.
34 billion, right? I mean, he didn't do it small. I mean, and it's, best chips in the world and all the stuff. And you go, yeah, if I could go back and tell that, don't do that. And I'm like, there it is, right? There's the realism of, you're going to go through spots where you may lose family, right? 80% of entrepreneurs get divorced at least once, right? And my wife, kids, when I say that, the other 20% are thinking about it, right? So that's it, it's that deal. Suicide, right? Depression, feeling like a failure, regardless of what's in the bank account. You are someone who looks at the world differently, so the rest of the world's going to go, you're crazy, right? I have a friend who's very successful in all kinds of ways, including financially. And he'll go, there's the difference between crazy and eccentric is the money in your account, right? He said, I went from crazy to eccentric because I got more money. I got this amount of money in my account. So people go, oh, you're eccentric, right? But if I didn't have money in the account, I'd be looked at as nuts, right? It's a really, really, really hard thing to be first generation. It's a very hard thing to accept that you're different and that you see the world differently, and the self-confidence that's needed. This world of I'm going to fake it till I make it. The amount of doubt internally in most cases is very high, right? And you're your biggest critic on the planet. And the mental health component has recently been highlighted, but it's hard. I mean, I've had a couple of pretty severe severe bouts with depression, and I got to the other side, and I did that through graces of, I'm a Christian, so great graces of God, and I crossed paths with a former monk by the name of Dan Depani back during one of my darkest spots, and I learned meditation and I learned energy flow, and through that tunnel, I got to light. But it was, and I'm very, very proud of who I am today. I'm very proud of the strength that was built through that. But it's still, recently also within the last 6 months, there's a CIA recruiter went live with somebody, right, on a podcast and said, yeah, we look for, there's a certain line of brokenness that if you've got up to that line of brokenness, you're perfect. If you've crossed that line, meaning you've gone down the road of drugs or alcohol or whatever it is, but if you can go to that one line and you didn't cross that line, that brokenness built strength, and that's who we look for, because the resilience built internally through that is amazing. I just was listening to a podcast, and it was the founder of the Cirque du Soleil, right? And he talked about the fact that, at 10 years old, he was sent to a Catholic school, and he saw his friends getting raped, right? And he didn't, because he was a contrarian and fought back. But that darkness, that spot, he's now gone public with, built a kind of a fuck you mentality that created armor that went on to, build something amazing. And are you willing to go through the darkness? Are you willing to allow the suffering which is required to shape you, to mold you, to strengthen, build muscle inside of you that then allows you to be, to carry the load that you need to carry?
So the question then becomes like, why? Why do people who are either predisposed to an entrepreneurial personality, or maybe are the byproduct of their situation is what drove them towards entrepreneurship? Like, what is the North Star that keeps someone going down that dark path? Is it that there's the potential for, large financial benefit at the end? Is it autonomy to not answer to, more of the corporate hierarchy? And maybe that's a question that you have answered for yourself, John, or maybe you have a perspective on what you think that is for most entrepreneurs. But for us all to go through the suck, there's got to be some reason why this percentage of these people continue to do it. Why do you think that is?
My feeling today is that it's just, there's an internal drive of trying to be the person that you hoped you would be when you're 5 years old. And that vision of I can, or maybe more realistically, can I? Right? What if, one of the things David Coggins talks about in his books, right, is that what if I were able to do this? What does life look like on the other side of that? And that was an internal driver when he's at mile 80 of a 160-mile race, right? What if I can, right? And in that, so when I was going through mine, I came out of that overnight retreat with Dan Depani and I had 3 things come to me that I promised myself. And I've said this publicly a couple of different times. And it's this, I promised myself that I was going to be the best dad and husband I knew how to be, because I was not that at the time, mostly because I just had my head up my ass, and I didn't understand the pain. I didn't understand the suffering and what it was, right? So there's 1. 2, I was to rededicate myself back to the gym and meditating daily, right? And I'm 25 pounds less than I was at that point in time, right? And so I said, there's that. So I'm gonna work on me. And then 3 is I'm just gonna make phone calls. That's what I'm gonna do. It's kind of like digging a ditch, right? I'm just gonna make phone calls and see where life comes, right? And so that was 2016. We're in 2023, so that was 7 years ago. Through that 7 years, I probably founded 4 or 5 different companies. I've got 3 right now. One is, I'm blessed where I'm at currently. But I also said this, a year ago today, I didn't know how I was going to pay for Christmas, right? And I was having to get help from others to help me with that, right? That's where I was. And so this has been a kind of a dousing, like, Eric Thomas talks about the fact that you have to want whatever that vision is as just as much as you want to breathe. And literally life's going to put you under and hold you there longer than you want it to. And so that what if I didn't put the ball down? What if I were able to get to the other side of this? What if I were able to create this and these kind of things? What does life look like there? And I have a huge heart to help others. I have a huge heart to reach back, pull up. I try to be today. The reason I do podcasts, the only reason is that I try to be the person I was looking for 6 years ago, 7 years ago, because I kept looking for somebody who were going through what I was going through. And the only place I found it was on YouTube. I stumbled across a motivation channel on YouTube that had Les Brown on it, right? And then I heard Steve Harvey talk about his journey. Then then Inky Johnson, and then Eric Thomas, and then David Goggins, and then I know that Tony Robbins is out there and all those things. There's these humans who are willing to go live or public with hard, right? And what it looked like, the mess, right? The pain, the suffering, all those things. And so I in the gym, I'm listening to them. I'm listening to those stories. I'm doing those things. And so where I sit right now is I'm almost to the point where, I want to go public with here's what that looked like, so that somebody 10 years behind me who may be going through what I was going through hears a little bit of what I'm saying and goes, holy shit, I resonate with that. Mm-hmm. Right? Now, the only thing that Steve Harvey, who's my favorite, doesn't do is he doesn't talk about, he talks about the fact that he lived in his car for 3 years before he made it, before he got on TV and those kind of pieces. And he didn't talk about what it took to live in the car. Like, where did you go shower every day? Where did you park the car to sleep? Where did the gas money come from? How did you deal with Christmas? Right? What did you do during those times? And what kept you upright? Right? Where those kind of things. And it's a strengthening mechanism to carry the ball forward and to live out whatever that little voice is inside of you. So I believe strongly also that we are born with gifts, one, and a vision for our ultimate, I call it level 10 life. And in almost every case, somebody will get to whatever level on that spectrum they get to, and it becomes hard. And they go, yeah, that's it, I'm done. I'm not going, I'm a level 6, I'm good with level 6, I'm not going to level 10. But they'll get to 80 years old, and I know some people like this right now, who look back and just regret the world about what decisions they made and that they never pushed through. And one of the things that when I heard Goggins talk about it, I was like, you know what? I have a list that sits in front of me every day, and it's my what if list. What if I were able to achieve that? What if? And that is a huge driver for me.
My biggest fear has been a day when I ask myself that question, that what if I had done something that I didn't at least try? And I think that was where any entrepreneurial motivation I had came from, was like, why not? You might as well give it a shot. Do you think that there is closure in the entrepreneurial experience? Do you think that there can be a day where, whether your level 10 is I've become the CEO of a publicly traded company, or your level 10 is I'm financially stable enough to make surfboards on the beach? Is there a finish line to being an entrepreneur where you can say, I've done it? And is that just, I'm sure it's unique to every person, but do you believe there is that day where you can say, I have succeeded?
I don't have it for me. I don't know for others, right? I have one goal in my life, and that goal is, as a Christian, I die, I get to the other side. My dad died almost 20 years ago. And as I look back on his life, he had cancer at 25, 26. It put the family in a debt hole that he never really got out of. And he ended up kind of having to stop farming and go become a post officeman. He's one of the greatest heroes I'll ever have in my life. He is my hero. And through that, he got overweight, and he had a heart attack at 50. Right, I'm 49 and a half. So all this stuff comes, and I think about him every day. But I have one real goal, and that is, I have a feeling. My feeling is there's a pearly gates, and I get to that pearly gates, and he finds me, hugs me, and says, "Good job." Right? That's the ultimate goal for me. Right? That's what I'm looking at, and as a driver. And now, what does that mean? Well, for me, that means that list, right? That first, I'm a Christian, and people say, well, I use the word fuck. I use all these words. I was like, yeah. Again, I'm a contrarian, right? So I don't believe in words that the world says, hey, these are wrong. I said, because every time I've said, why are they wrong, right? What's wrong with these words and not these words? Nobody can give me a straight answer. And I'm like, well, okay. So I don't believe in that, right? So, okay. But live, do good, right? Don't do harm. Those aren't the same thing, right? And help as many people as you can, right? Those three preferences. I'm a Methodist. Live there. Be the dad husband that I have in my head, mostly looking at my dad and going, can I try to do my best to try to resemble what I believe was a roadmap for me there in both cases, in both being a dad and a husband. And then if I'm given images, which I think are on purpose, my job is to bring those to fruition. So, Jarron, if you've got something that whatever it is, to go build something. My opinion is that or my true belief is that's yours and yours alone, and it will make the world a better place if you can go down the road to get there, right? And so I have these things in me, and I'm like, okay, my job is to plow the road to see if I can get that there, right? To pull that forward into the world, because it's on purpose, right? My daughter is an equestrian, my athlete. My son wants to be an F1 driver, right? I tell them both, I never thought about either one of those things a day in my life until you showed up, right? Until my kids showed up. I was like, that was put there on purpose, right? There's purpose in those things. I don't know what that purpose is. Your job is to go find out the purpose. My job is to support you to try to get to the purpose. That's my job. Be a staircase in their life so that they have it better than me, right? That is the goal I have as a father. So to go back to the question, I don't have an end goal. I now have fallen in love. Inky Johnson calls it the process. I have fallen in love with the process. I have fallen in love with that daily grind. I have a ton of ton. I have a bunch of habits that I do daily, right? From the moment I wake up, that I don't take days off of. This is just what I do. And those habits have been molded over this period of time, and I'm very proud of it. It's created the person that you see. But man, I love my life today. I can look back and be proud that I never put the ball down, right? That when the world, including my wife and those kind of things, were saying do something different, I said, I just believe. And my opinion is you either have faith or don't have faith. There is no, well, I'm kind of have faith. There is no kind of have faith, right? If you kind of have faith, you don't have faith. If you have faith that whatever you want to say, God, the universe, whatever it is, Yahweh, whatever it looks like, that higher thing has your back and has your best interest in mind, then take a step, right? Take one step the next day, or just live in the fire and allow it to melt the impurifications away to become something better. And I wish that for every human. I do.
Yeah, I don't think we could end on a higher note than that, John. That's perfect. Like, I think what I'll do is the whole theme of this really seems to revolve equal parts around entrepreneurship, but also intrinsic motivation. And I think that's how we'll kind of frame this in terms of promoting it. And I think that your point of view on this is so unique and powerful. What I'll do is I think that each of those 4 or 5 kind of prompts play really well into that theme. And so what we'll do is we'll edit those up and kind of cut those out. And then prior to actually posting something, we'll get your blessing on the way that we introduce you in copy, and then kind of how we reference you, and then just some of the clips themselves, just so you can kind of give us your thumbs up and say, cool, it works for me. And then we're probably a couple of weeks out from this being in the queue. And I think that was just a perfect representation of what I was hoping to showcase all about you.
Beautiful. Blessings to you. Thank you.
Awesome. Likewise, John. Thank you so much for the time. That was awesome.
All right, brother. Talk to you soon.
Have a good rest of your day.